The signal pierced through the darkness of space, a desperate plea carrying across light years. At Earth's deep space listening post Gamma, Dr. Marcus Wong stared at his console in disbelief. After 15 years of scanning the stars for signs of intelligent life, they'd finally received an unambiguous message. The problem was, it was a cry for help. "Director Harris," Marcus called out, his fingers flying across the holographic interface. "You need to see this." The message repeated in regular intervals, using universal mathematical constants as a base cipher. As the computer decoded more of the transmission, images began forming on the screen. Bodies racked with a strange illness, entire cities under quarantine, a civilization facing extinction. Within hours, the highest levels of Earth's government convened an emergency session. Humanity had spent the last century preparing for first contact, but no one had expected it to come in the form of a medical emergency. As the gathered leaders debated their response, Dr. Elena Santos, Earth's foremost xenobiologist, stood to address the assembly. "We have an obligation," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "Not just as scientists, but as a species that knows what it means to face pandemic threats. The Silent Guardian is ready. My team is ready." The Silent Guardian was humanity's crowning achievement, a deep space vessel housing the most advanced medical research facility ever constructed. Originally designed to protect human colonies from unknown pathogens, it now had a different first mission. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Silent Guardian, watching her crew make final preparations for launch. The ship's AI, Araya, manifested as a subtle blue glow pulsing through the ship's neural interfaces. "All systems are optimal," Captain Araya reported. "The medical bay is fully stocked, and Dr. Santos' team has completed loading their equipment. We can launch within the hour." Maya nodded, her dark eyes reflecting the shimmering displays surrounding her command chair. "These Aetheri," she said, using the name they decoded from the transmissions, "they're dying while we wait. Araya, plot the fastest course using the new quantum drive." "The drive is untested at these distances," Araya cautioned. "There are significant risks." "There are always risks," Maya replied, a slight smile crossing her face. "That's why they chose a test pilot to captain a medical ship." The launch sequence began, the Silent Guardian's massive form rising from its orbital dock with impossible grace for a vessel its size. The quantum drive hummed to life, its exotic energy signature rippling through spacetime itself. "All hands," Maya's voice echoed through the ship. "Prepare for quantum transition. We're about to make history, and hopefully, save a civilization in the process." The journey that should have taken years passed in weeks. The Silent Guardian emerged from quantum space in orbit around the Aetheri homeworld, its sensors immediately beginning to analyze the situation below. The planet was beautiful, crystal spires rising through purple-tinted clouds, cities that seemed to grow organically from the iridescent landscape. But the sensors told a darker story. Nearly 30% of the population showed signs of infection. Quarantine zones dotted the continents like wounds on the planet's surface. The Aetheri's attempts to contain the plague were failing. First contact happened in orbit. The Aetheri representatives, their translucent bodies glowing with bioluminescent patterns, arrived in a ship that looked more like a living creature than a vessel. Dr. Santos led the initial meeting, with Araya providing real-time translation. "We come in response to your call for help," Elena said, trying to project both confidence and compassion. "We are human, from a planet called Earth, and we have experience fighting diseases that threaten entire populations." The Aetheri delegation's patterns shifted, displaying what Araya interpreted as a mix of hope and concern. Their leader, whose name translated roughly to harmony and light, stepped forward. "Your arrival is..." They paused as Araya translated, "unexpected. We have long known other intelligences must exist among the stars, but in our darkest hour, we never truly believed help would come." Elena gestured to the advanced medical equipment her team had prepared. We'd like to begin by examining those infected to understand what we're fighting. Our ship carries the most advanced medical laboratory humanity has ever built. The patterns across Harmony and Light's body darkened. Our ways, they are different. The body is sacred, its processes not to be interrupted by external forces. Many of our people believe this plague is a spiritual test. It was the first of many cultural hurdles they would face. As Alina's team began their work, they had to navigate between human medical science and ethereal spiritual beliefs. Every tissue sample, every scan, had to be preceded by elaborate ceremonies. Time they didn't have, ticking away as more ethereal fell ill. Captain Rodriguez watched from the Silent Guardian's observation deck as shuttles ferried medical teams to and from the surface. The ethereal cities glowed beneath her, their light dimming as more and more of their people succumbed to the plague. "RIA," she said quietly, "what are our chances of helping them in time?" The A's response was measured. Based on current infection rates and cultural compliance with treatment protocols, I estimate we have 3 weeks before the plague reaches a critical point in the population. Dr. Santos' team is brilliant, but they're fighting both a disease and centuries of spiritual tradition. Maya's hand rested against the transparent aluminum viewport. Then we'll have to find a way to bridge that gap. Humanity's first contact with another civilization won't be marked by our failure to save them. Below, in the main medical lab, Alina Santos stared into a microscope at something that made her blood run cold. The plague attacking the ethereal wasn't evolving like a natural disease. Its patterns were too precise, its mutations too targeted. "This isn't a natural plague," she whispered, her words carrying the weight of a terrible realization. Someone engineered this. Someone wanted the ethereal to suffer. The first contact humanity had dreamed of had become a race against time, with an entire civilization hanging in the balance. And somewhere out in the darkness of space, whoever had engineered this plague was watching, waiting to see how humanity would respond to their handiwork. The Silent Guardian lived up to its name, standing sentinel over a dying world. But its mission had just become far more complex than anyone had imagined. This wasn't just about saving lives anymore. It was about uncovering who would create such a weapon, and why. Humanity's first steps into the galactic community would not be marked by diplomatic niceties or trade agreements, but by a desperate fight to save a species they had just met. The universe, it seemed, had a cruel sense of irony. Dr. Alina Santos stood in the Silent Guardian's primary containment lab, surrounded by floating holographic displays showing the plague's molecular structure. Each simulation revealed the same disturbing truth. This was no natural evolution. The virus had been engineered with terrifying precision, specifically tailored to the ethereal's unique biology. "RIA, run the comparison again," Alina commanded, her eyes fixed on the spinning molecular models. "Cross-reference with every known pathogen in our database." The A's response was immediate. Analysis complete. The plague shows signs of advanced bioengineering. Key structures appear designed to bypass ethereal cellular defenses while leaving other species unaffected. "This is a targeted weapon, Dr. Santos." Captain Rodriguez entered the lab, her footsteps silent on the sterile floor. "Give me good news, Alina. The Ethereal Council is demanding updates, and their patience with our invasive procedures is wearing thin." Alina gestured at the displays. "The bad news is that this is definitely engineered. The good news, whoever designed it left traces of their work. Like an artist's signature, there are patterns here that could lead us to its origin." The captain's expression hardened. "You're saying someone out there is watching an entire civilization die, and they planned it this way?" "Not just planned it," Alina replied, manipulating the holographic model. "They've done this before. ARIA found markers in the virus's code that suggest multiple iterations, improvements made over time. This isn't their first test run." The implications hung heavy in the air. Humanity's first venture into the galactic community had uncovered not just one alien civilization, but evidence of another, hidden species, one willing to unleash engineered plagues for unknown purposes. On the planet below, the situation was deteriorating. The Aethery's bioluminescence, once brilliant and varied, had dimmed to a uniform, sickly pale. Their crystal cities, designed to amplify and reflect their natural light, stood dark and somber. Dr. James Chen, the team's lead virologist, worked tirelessly in the surface clinic, trying to balance human medical practices with Aethery spiritual beliefs. Each treatment had to be blessed by their healers, each sample collection preceded by ceremonies that consumed precious time. Their cellular structure is unlike anything we've seen, James reported during the evening briefing. The plague isn't just attacking their bodies, it's disrupting the photosynthetic processes that generate their bioluminescence. It's killing them by darkening their light. For the Aethery, whose entire culture revolved around light and its spiritual significance, this was more than a medical crisis. It was an extinction-level event that threatened their very identity as a species. Aria's blue glow pulsed thoughtfully through the ship's neural interfaces. "Captain, I've been analyzing communication patterns across the Aethery network. There's evidence of encrypted transmissions being sent to a location outside their star system." Maya leaned forward in her command chair. "Someone's watching. Can you trace it? The technology is sophisticated, but not impossible to crack. Give me time." Time was the one thing they didn't have. The plague was accelerating, adapting to the Aethery's attempts to fight it. Each day brought new reports of outbreaks in previously unaffected regions. Elena's team worked around the clock, their determination fueled by a growing anger at whoever had engineered this catastrophe. Human medical science, advanced as it was, struggled against the plague's complexity. It was like trying to pick apart a lock while wearing blindfolds. Every solution they tried was countered by some hidden mechanism in the virus's design. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. During one of the mandatory blessing ceremonies, Dr. Chen noticed something extraordinary. The Aethery healers' bioluminescent patterns, when they reached peak intensity during their rituals, seemed to affect the behavior of the virus. "It's responding to specific frequencies of light," he reported excitedly. "Their ceremonies aren't just spiritual. They're having a physical effect on the pathogen." Elena immediately redirected her research. The Aethery's natural bioluminescence wasn't just communication or decoration. It was part of their immune system, a natural defense mechanism that the plague had been specifically designed to disable. "Aria," Elena called out, "we need to reconfigure the medical bay's quantum field generators. If we can amplify the specific frequencies the Aethery produced during their ceremonies." The eye was already ahead of her, recalibrating now. "But Dr. Santos, this treatment would need to reach planetary scale to be effective. The Silent Guardian doesn't have that kind of power." Captain Rodriguez's voice cut through the discussion. "No, but their crystal cities do. They're already designed to amplify and redirect light. We just need to give them the right kind of light to amplify." It was a race against time now. As Elena's team worked to develop the treatment, integrating human technology with Aethery biological processes, ARIA continued tracing the mysterious transmissions. Someone out there was monitoring their progress, watching to see if humanity would succeed where the Aethery had failed. The ship's sensors detected new quantum space disturbances forming at the edge of the system. More vessels were coming. Whether they were friends or enemies remained to be seen, but the Silent Guardian stood ready, living up to its name as it worked to save a civilization from extinction. In the primary lab, Elena stared at the latest test results with growing hope. The combined approach, human science married to Aethery biological knowledge, was showing promise. The virus was weakening under the specific light frequencies they'd isolated. "We're close," she whispered, more to herself than to her team. "We're so close." But in the darkness of space, unknown eyes watched and waited, their plans already adapting to this unexpected human intervention. The true test was yet to come, and its stakes were higher than anyone aboard the Silent Guardian could imagine. The quantum space ruptures at the edge of the Aethery system grew larger. ARIA's sensors tracked 5 vessels emerging, ships of a design that triggered immediate alarm. Their hulls were dark, almost crystalline, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. They were everything the luminous ethery vessels were not. Captain, Araya's voice carried an unusual edge. The unknown ships match partial records found in the Plague's code. Energy signatures are consistent with the encrypted transmissions we detected. Captain Rodriguez stood at the Silent Guardian's command center, her expression grim. So our mystery observers have finally decided to show themselves. Open a channel. The response was immediate, but not what anyone expected. A holographic figure materialized on the bridge, tall, elegant, with skin that seemed to shift like oil on water. Its voice resonated with artificial perfection. I am Ambassador Vex of the Nexari Consortium. We come in response to the Etheries. Unfortunate situation. Maya's eyes narrowed. Interesting timing, Ambassador. We've just discovered that the plague affecting the Ethery was engineered. Indeed. Vex's expression remained neutral. A tragic circumstance. The Consortium specializes in solving such difficult problems. For appropriate compensation, of course. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Elena, watching from the medical bay, felt her hands clench into fists. The Nexari hadn't just created the plague. They were here to profit from it. Araya's next report confirmed their worst fears. Captain, I've decrypted more of the transmissions. The Nexari have done this before, 27 times in the last decade alone. They engineer a plague, wait for the target civilization to reach desperation, then offer the cure in exchange for territory, resources, or technology. Vex's hologram showed no reaction to the accusation. We provide solutions to species that lack the capacity to save themselves. The universe is harsh, Captain. The Consortium merely ensures that resources flow to those best equipped to use them. By unleashing engineered plagues on peaceful civilizations, Maya's voice was steel. By watching them suffer until they're desperate enough to surrender everything they have. The Nexari ambassador's form rippled slightly. Your species is new to the galactic community, Captain. You don't understand how things work here. The strong survive by being strong. The weak survive by serving the strong. It is efficient. Elena's voice cut through the command center. Captain, we're ready. The treatment can work. We don't need their help. The change in Vex's demeanor was subtle but immediate. You interfere with matters beyond your understanding, humans. The Ethery's fate was decided the moment we chose them. Your primitive attempts at treatment will fail, and you will watch them die unless you step aside. Maya's response was calm, measured. ARIA. End transmission. The hologram vanished. Status of the defense systems. All systems ready, Captain, but their technology is significantly advanced. 5 against 1 are not favorable odds. A smile crossed Maya's face. Good thing we're not here to fight. Elena, how long until the treatment is ready? 2 hours to configure the city's crystal network. Once it's done, we can blanket the entire planet with the therapeutic light frequency. The plague won't stand a chance. The Nexari ships moved closer, their formation designed to cut off the Silent Guardian from the planet below. More transmissions arrived. Offers of alliance, warnings of consequences, finally threats. The humans ignored them all. In the medical bay, Elena's team worked frantically to finish the treatment. The Ethery healers, finally understanding that human science was working to amplify their own natural abilities, not replace them, joined in the effort. Their combined knowledge, human and Ethery together, accomplished in hours what neither species could have done alone. Captain, Araya reported, the Nexari ships are charging weapons. They're targeting the crystal cities. They'd mean to destroy the delivery system before we can activate it. Maya's voice was firm. Deploy the quantum shields. Full coverage over the target cities. Elena, how much longer? Minutes. Just give us minutes. The first Nexari attack came like a wave of darkness. Energy weapons designed to disrupt and destroy. The Silent Guardian's shields held. barely their advanced human technology straining against weapons developed through decades of stolen innovation. But the Nexeri had made a crucial mistake. They had studied dozens of species, learned their weaknesses, exploited their fears. But humans were an unknown factor. While the Nexeri expected them to either flee or fight, the Silent Guardian did neither. Shield status at 40%. Area reported as another barrage hit, but the cities remained protected. Alina's voice crackled through the comm. Treatment network online. Initiating now. The crystal cities of the ethery world began to glow, not with their usual soft luminescence, but with a brilliant, pulsing light that spread like a wave across the planet's surface. The frequency, precisely calibrated to destroy the engineered plague while strengthening the ethery's natural defenses, turned the entire world into a healing beacon. From orbit, the Silent Guardian's crew watched as the darkness that had been consuming the ethery began to recede. The planet's natural glow, dimmed by disease, started to return. Ambassador Vex's hologram appeared once more, its perfect composure finally cracking. You don't understand what you've done. The consortium's methods maintain order. Without us, without you, Maya interrupted, species will be free to help each other instead of being extorted in their darkest hours. Area, send the transmission. Across the galaxy, from every world the Nexeri had attacked, the cure's formula was broadcast, not as a bargaining chip, not as a weapon, but as a gift. The Silent Guardian had done more than save one species. It had broken the Nexeri's power forever. The dark ships withdrew, their perfect formation scattered. They had never faced a species that gave away freely what they had tried to sell so dearly. Their entire model of control, based on exploitation and fear, crumbled in the face of simple human compassion. But even as the immediate crisis passed, Maya knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy was larger and more dangerous than humanity had imagined. And somewhere out there, other species were suffering, waiting for help they never expected to receive. The Silent Guardian would not stand alone for long. Already, Earth was preparing more ships, more teams, more guardians. Humanity had found its purpose among the stars, not as conquerors or merchants, but as healers, protectors, and champions of those who could not protect themselves. The ethery world blazed with renewed light, its crystal cities amplifying the healing frequency across continents. In the Silent Guardian's medical bay, Alina watched through tears as the plague's hold began to break. The ethery's natural bioluminescence, nearly extinguished by the engineered virus, flickered back to life like stars emerging after a storm. Recovery rates are exceeding projections, Area reported, her voice carrying a note of satisfaction. The combination of human medical science and ethery biological processes is proving more effective than either approach alone. But victory had come at a cost. The Silent Guardian's quantum shields, strained by the Nexeri attack, would need extensive repairs. More concerning were the implications of what they'd discovered. The Nexeri Consortium's plague-for-profit scheme had victimized dozens of civilizations across the galaxy. Captain Rodriguez stood in the ship's communication center, preparing to make the most important transmission of her career. Area, status of the galactic broadcast. Ready, Captain. The cure's formula, along with documentation of the Nexeri's actions, is prepared for transmission on all known frequencies. However, this will reveal our presence to every spacefaring civilization in range. Maya nodded. That's exactly what we want. Humanity's first message to the galaxy shouldn't be about power or territory. It should be about hope. She took a deep breath. Send it. The transmission went out in waves, carried by quantum entanglement communications that the Nexeri couldn't block. The message was simple but powerful. The cure for the engineered plague, freely given, along with evidence of its creator's crimes. On the bridge, the response was immediate. Hundreds of signals began pouring in from across the galaxy. Some were from worlds already under Nexeri control, others from civilizations that had been watching their neighbors fall to mysterious plagues. All of them had lived in fear of the consortium's power. Captain. Aria's voice was urgent. We're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command. The holographic figure of Admiral Chen materialized on the bridge. Captain Rodriguez, your actions have just rewritten humanity's place in the galaxy. The Security Council has made a decision. We're mobilizing the entire medical fleet. Every ship with advanced research capabilities is being deployed. Maya felt her heart race. The whole fleet, sir. The whole fleet. The Silent Guardian proved that humanity can make a difference out there. Now it's time to prove we can do it on a larger scale. Your new orders are to establish a coordination center on the Aetheri homeworld. You'll be receiving reinforcements within the week. As the Admiral's hologram faded, Elena burst onto the bridge. Captain, you need to see this. The Aetheri, they're doing something incredible. The main viewport shifted to show the surface below. The recovered Aetheri were gathering in their crystal cities, their bodies glowing with intense patterns of light. The formations they created sent beams of energy skyward, intersecting and combining in the atmosphere. It's a message, Aria translated. They're using their combined bioluminescence to broadcast to other worlds. They're offering their own medical knowledge in return for what we've given them. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just saved one species, they had catalyzed a movement. The Aetheri, nearly destroyed by the Nexeri's cruelty, were now reaching out to help others despite their own recent trauma. In the following days, more ships arrived, both human and alien. The Aetheri system became a hub of medical and scientific exchange. Species that had been isolated by fear began sharing their knowledge, each contributing their unique insights to a growing database of galactic medical science. The Silent Guardian's medical bay, already advanced by human standards, was transformed by the integration of Aetheri crystal technology. The combination enhanced their healing capabilities far beyond what either species could achieve alone. But not all news was good. Reports indicated that the Nexeri were regrouping, calling in ships from across their territory. They had spent too long profiting from suffering to accept their power being broken so easily. Let them come, Maya said during a strategy meeting with her senior staff. The galaxy is changing. Every cure we share, every species we help, weakens their hold on power. They fought through fear and isolation. We'll fight through unity and hope. Elena, looking at the latest medical data from newly contacted worlds, nodded in agreement. The Nexeri's greatest weapon was keeping species afraid and separate. By sharing knowledge freely, we're not just curing diseases, we're curing the fear that gave them their power. Aria's presence pulsed through the ship's systems. Captain, the first wave of Earth's medical fleet has entered the system. The Aetheri are already adapting their crystal cities to serve as docking and research stations. The sight of human ships arriving alongside vessels from a dozen other species filled Maya with pride. This was humanity's true first contact, not just meeting aliens, but working alongside them to build something better than any one species could create alone. In her private quarters that evening, Maya recorded her log. The Silent Guardian began its mission to save one civilization. Instead, we've helped spark a revolution of compassion across the galaxy. Earth's decision to share the cure freely has shown everyone a different way forward. We're no longer just witnesses to history. We're helping write its next chapter. The stars seemed brighter that night, as if reflecting the renewed hope spreading across the galaxy. The Silent Guardian had lived up to its name in ways no one could have predicted, standing guard not just over one world, but over the very principles of compassion and cooperation that humanity held dear. As Maya looked out at the growing fleet of medical ships, she knew that the real work was just beginning. The Nexeri would not give up their power easily, and there were still countless worlds suffering under their influence. But for the first time, those worlds had hope. And sometimes, hope was the most powerful medicine of all. 3 months after the cure's release, the Aetheri system had transformed. Their crystal cities, once dimmed by plague, now pulsed with the combined light of a dozen species working together. The Silent Guardian remained in orbit, but it was no longer alone. Ships from across the galaxy had come, some seeking healing, others offering help. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood in the newly constructed Interstellar Medical Center, watching teams of humans and aliens working side by side. The center, built using a combination of Earth technology and etheric crystal architecture, served as the headquarters for what the media back home had dubbed the greatest humanitarian mission in human history. Captain, Araya's voice came through her neural link. We're receiving another transmission from the Nexari border worlds. 3 more colonies have declared independence from the consortium. They're requesting medical assistance and offering their own research data in exchange. Maya smiled. The Nexari's empire, built on exploitation and fear, was crumbling not through violence, but through hope. Every world that received the cure became a new ally, each bringing their own unique knowledge and capabilities to the growing alliance. In the main research lab, Dr. Elena Santos worked alongside etheri scientists, their combined expertise pushing the boundaries of medical science. The room was filled with floating holographic displays showing genetic sequences, molecular structures, and healing frequencies from a dozen different species. The Nexari's greatest mistake, Elena said during a briefing, was assuming that biological differences between species meant they had to remain separate. Instead, we're finding that these differences offer unique solutions to medical challenges. The etheri's photosynthetic healing, combined with Earth's cellular regeneration techniques, has already led to breakthroughs in treating conditions we thought were incurable. The evidence of this success surrounded them. In the hospital wings, patients from across the galaxy received treatments that would have been impossible just months ago. The etheri's crystal technology amplified healing energies, while human medical science provided precision and control. Other species brought their own contributions: the Velderi's expertise in neural healing, the Fawn's mastery of cellular regeneration, the Xinthi's understanding of quantum biology. But not all news was peaceful. The Nexari, their profitable empire collapsing, had turned desperate. Reports came in of their ships attacking medical convoys, trying to prevent the spread of knowledge that threatened their power. They still don't understand, Maya said during an emergency council meeting. Every attack just proves why their way of thinking needs to end. Araya, show us the latest fleet movements. The holographic display revealed dozens of ships converging on their position, the largest Nexari fleet ever assembled. But the response to this threat showed how much the galaxy had changed. Ships from every freed world moved to defend the medical center, their crews united not by fear or dominance, but by a shared commitment to healing. The battle, when it came, was unlike anything in human history. The Nexari attacked with all their remaining power, expecting to find a vulnerable medical station. Instead, they found themselves facing a coalition of species, each contributing their unique strengths to the defense. The Silent Guardian led the response, its quantum shields now enhanced by etheric crystal technology. Araya coordinated the Allied fleet with impossible precision, while the crystal cities below channeled their combined energy to create a planetary defense grid that the Nexari couldn't penetrate. They expected us to fight like them, Maya observed as the Nexari fleet retreated in disarray. They never understood that true strength comes from working together, from healing instead of hurting. In the aftermath of the battle, something unprecedented happened. The remaining Nexari worlds, seeing their leadership's final defeat, began reaching out, not in surrender, but in hope. They too had suffered under their leader's cruel philosophy, and they too wanted to be part of this new way of existing in the galaxy. 1 year after the Silent Guardian's first arrival in aetheri space, the Interstellar Medical Corps was officially established. Its mission: to ensure that no species would ever again face extinction alone, that knowledge would be shared freely, and that healing would triumph over harm. The Silent Guardian itself became a symbol, its name now meaning something far greater than its creators had intended. It stood guard not just over the weak or sick, but over the very idea that different species could work together, could learn from each other, could become something greater than the sum of their parts. Maya stood on her ship's observation deck, watching the endless stream of vessels coming and going from the medical center. Each ship carried something precious: knowledge, hope, healing, freely given and freely received. The stars themselves seemed brighter, as if reflecting the light of countless worlds choosing cooperation over conflict, healing over harm. "Aria," she said softly, "send a message to Earth Command. Tell them that we found our place in the galaxy. We're not just explorers or diplomats or warriors. We're healers, teachers, guardians, and we're not alone anymore." The AI's response carried a warmth that would have been impossible months ago. "Message sent, Captain. The response from Earth is, they're proud of us. They're proud of what humanity has helped create out here." As the silent guardian prepared for its next mission, Maya thought about how far they'd come. They had arrived as unknown saviors to a dying world. They were leaving as part of something far greater, a galactic community dedicated to preserving life in all its forms. The plague that had brought them here was gone, but its lesson remained. In the face of suffering, humanity had chosen to help freely, to share knowledge openly, to stand guard over the weak. And in doing so, they had helped forge a new way forward for all species. The stars beckoned, not with promises of conquest or power, but with countless opportunities to heal, to learn, to grow. The silent guardian would answer that call, as would the ships that followed in its wake. For in the end, humanity's greatest achievement wasn't in saving one species, but in showing the galaxy that there was another way, a better way, to reach for the stars together.